Hello and welcome to the Property Lifestyle Mastery podcast. I'm Jackie Tomes and I'm shortly going to be joined by my wonderful husband and business partner, David Wigram, and my other business partner, but not my husband, Dom Beechino. And on this show, we're going to be having open conversations about what building a property business that creates cash flow and freedom, what that journey's actually like from those that have been there and done it. So we're not just talking about the highs, but also the lows and the big lessons that we've had along the way to making the business work and also creating the holiday every 6 weeks lifestyle. So we're going through everything, right from the very big picture business strategy, how you can maximize your potential as a human and business person, and right down to practical solutions. So today is in fact our very first episode. So on this episode we're going to be talking about the 3 big freedoms and how it's integral to get all of these different elements of freedom coming together to be able to create your ideal lifestyle. So let's go and do this. So guys, here we are. This is I can't believe this is happening. This is our first ever podcast recording for the Property Lifestyle Mastery podcast. So hello everyone, I'm Jackie Tomes. I'm joined by Dom Beechino and my darling husband, David. So welcome to the first ever podcast. Hey guys.
Great to be here. I'm very excited to share all the amazing thoughts that we've been experiencing together over the last 2.5 years that we've been working together. So it's fun to do this.
Awesome. And Dave is looking all analytical in the background there. So you may be watching this on YouTube. This is going to be on our YouTube channel, or you may be listening to us on a podcast link. So however you're listening and wherever you're listening from, massive welcome. So this is been many years in the creation, what we're going to be sharing over this episode and the episodes that follow, and it's what we're calling the Property Lifestyle Mastery, which is the different elements that you've got to have in place within your property business in order to make sure that you can live the life that you ultimately wanted when you started. And that's what you can expect over the... Go on, Dom.
I was going to say, and talking of lifestyle, I think the people who are watching on YouTube are probably thinking, where are they? It looks like you're in a motorhome. So do you want to cover that before? Because otherwise they won't be listening to what you're saying. They're going to be thinking, where are
they? Yes, we are in a motorhome. We're currently traveling around Europe. In a motorhome, running our property business from wherever we are. We're currently in the south of France, having just done a couple of months skiing, which ended early because I have broken my toe, but that's a story for another day. We're traveling around building our property business, and we're, over the subsequent episodes, going to be sharing a bit more about the background and our individual stories. So we won't go into a lot of detail of it today, but obviously much more to come as we progress. So I think what would be a great place to start on this very first episode is to start to talk about property lifestyle mastery is at the center of what we're talking about, but obviously that cascades out into many other areas, which is what we're going to be covering here. So really, I wanted us to be able to start with the first 3 fundamentals that are integral to that, which is time freedom, financial freedom, and emotional freedom. So Dave, maybe we should be coming to you first. He's shaking his head at me. What are you shaking your head for, babe? Oh, he's got no internet. Okay, so let's come to Dom first in that case. So Dom, are you going to tell it to me? So Dom, let's come to you first of all for emotional freedom. Like, what you have been an amazing influence on Dave and I when it comes to, like, we've built our property business, we're traveling around Europe, and we've got plenty to say when it comes to time and financial freedom. But it wasn't until we started working closely with you, working with other property business owners, that we realized that we were missing a whole area, which is emotional freedom, and which you demonstrate so beautifully every single day. We think you're probably the happiest person that we know. So let's just call you the happiest person in our world. You love what you do, you radiate amazing energy, and even if you won £50 million on the lottery tomorrow, nothing would really probably change in your life. And so I think that is a beautiful place to start, to tell us what the whole area of emotional freedom is really about.
Thank you, Jackie. That's a very kind introduction. And yeah, I do feel incredibly blessed to feel so free emotionally and just content every day. And I wish that for everyone that I come into contact with as well. And the beauty of it is that I wouldn't be able to do what I do without working with you and Dave, because you bring such different aspects to people's success. We all three of us, hence why there's effectively three triangles in our model. We each bring something different to the party so that people can succeed. But just on the mindset mastery, emotional mastery piece, it's really, really important. It doesn't matter how much, say money you win, for example. Statistics show that people who make loads of money on the lottery suddenly, a year later, they're no happier. It's still them. And so really, success in life is all about becoming really self-aware and understanding, and always detaching yourself from your thoughts, from your feelings, so that you can just observe, and the observer is the real you. And so helping people understand that so that they can get perspective when they're stuck inside a problem of their business is one of the key aspects of success. And that's why I focus on that, and that is my absolute passion. I'm not nearly as good at property as you are or other people are, but what I can do is get perspective and help people see a different angle on their problems, which is I guess where I come in.
I was going to say, Dom, you've obviously worked with like hundreds of businesses, not just property businesses. Obviously, you're working with us and specialising in property businesses, which is always great because you get to know them best, or get them really well anyway.
Yeah.
But you've worked with so many other types of industries. I'd love to know what you think is like a common theme across business, particularly business owners, where people fall down on the emotional mastery.
Yeah, that's a really good question, Dave, because there is always a common theme, right? It might seem a bit deep and a bit esoteric, but basically life is a reflection of what's going on inside your mind and your body. And so if you are at peace internally, then you find that if there are events that happen in your life that might be difficult or traumatic, they're not nearly as difficult or traumatic because you're able to handle them better. And so actually life flows more easily. And if life flows more easily, then you tend to succeed and be happier every day. Because remember, a happy life is just someone who has the most peaceful or pleasant, joyful moments, and moments that happen one session at a time, right? So it's that ability to be present is key to success. And one of the things that I see that people, they might look successful, or they've been successful, but eventually their personality and what's going on internally comes out, and they tend to either maybe fall off a cliff, as in they make loads of money in, say, property or others, and then they lose it all, or they lose a lot of it because they haven't yet mastered that emotional the emotional mastery, the ability to be consistently at peace in the world.
So true. And like we'll go into more detail on like some of the stories behind how we've realized that, but I'm not sure if you might be listening to Dom going, what is he on about? Like some of you who are like a bit further along be like, oh my god, I need this man in my life, he's the missing piece. But you might be like we were a few years ago, like, what are you on about? Like, that's not how you get anything done. That's what Dave and I were like. We've only got to where we've gotten to in property by bashing down walls, taking the hard route, never taking no for an answer. And we achieved what to the outside world is success, building a big portfolio, having a team, traveling the world, like it's what everyone aims for. But then the problem is all of that way that we were being in order to get all of that was underneath it all, not coming from a good place, and so therefore not happy day to day. And that's why for us that this partnership that we've now got with Dom has not only benefited our lives, but it's also completely transformed how we work with clients too. So our property business is Tomes Homes, but that has born Property Strategy, which is how we help and mentor other experienced property investors to scale up their businesses. And seeing the impact that the focus on the emotional mastery side of things, thinking about how you become your ideal self, overcome limiting beliefs, the things that we didn't think were like, we don't have limiting beliefs, that's not a problem for us. Actually, there was a ton of them, but they were just so hidden that we couldn't see them. And just seeing how we are
able to fly and flow through life so much more easily because of this is why it is now an absolute fundamental of how we work. And so, Dom, thank you for being in our lives, and thank you for being part of this this podcast journey where we can share with others just more behind the scenes in detail what that all really means.
Yeah, and thank you as well, because I couldn't do what I do, as I mentioned before, without you, because it's all very well being, emotionally at peace, but you know what, I'm not changing the world, I'm not influencing people by, just meditating all day and not doing anything. There is the opposite side, effectively, which is taking action and having the right knowledge and, understanding finances and spreadsheets and all those other things that are absolutely essential too, but without any aspect of this triangle that's missing, basically you'll fall over at some point. And that's why it's so important to have all aspects. And that's why I love working with you guys, because you bring things that I don't, I'm not so good at. So Dave, tell us more about your side of the triangle, what you master and what you're able to help people with.
So I think I've been nicknamed Detail Dave. That's something that I kind of lean into because, to be honest with you, I work in an analytical approach, which has been very helpful for building our business. I think when we first started, it was mainly Jackie, not me. I was working as a musician, but I very quickly clocked onto this thing that if you want to be successful in investment business, you need to understand your numbers. And I started getting into the spreadsheets, and that became an area that my kind of analytical mind became, very useful, very helpful, because I always want to know the very minutest of details to make sure it all stacks up properly and I've covered every single base. So that's been really great in our business. And actually it's been really helpful to cover what we call the kind of second pillar, as it were, is the financial freedom, the fundamental of financial freedom, because I think so many people want this. This is the thing that gets you started when you start building a business. Everyone's like, I just don't want to have to worry about money anymore. I just, I don't want to have to worry. I don't want the anxiety around it. I don't want to have to feel like I don't have enough money. I want to be able to do things that I can't do now, and that requires money. And money is the big thing. And then that's where kind of our main fundamental comes in. We've got this financial freedom piece. Now, I think where people go wrong in this area is when they think about financial freedom as just the end goal of having tons and tons and tons of money. And I can't tell you how many people we've started working with at the very beginning, and we just said, what is it? What's your vision? What do you want? And the answer is that I want, finger in the air, £1 million a year income. That's it. And it's like, right, okay, great. That's a lot of money. Good. What are you going to do with that? And they're like, what do you mean? What am I going to do with? Yeah, well, what are you actually going to spend that money on? Like, well, do you need all that money? And when you drill down, obviously my biggest love in life, drilling down on the detail. When you drill down into what they're going to spend that money on, they've got no freaking idea. They're sitting there saying, I want some holidays. Okay, great. What holidays do you want? I want maybe like 3 or 4 holidays a year. Okay, what are you going to do on these holidays? I don't know, go skiing holiday, or maybe go somewhere. The answers are vague. They don't really know what they want. But when you get to the bottom of it and you start calculating up how much everything they're saying costs, it seldom ever gets to £1 million a year. It's usually somewhere between 60 and 120 grand a year is where people's numbers come to, which is fascinating because we all have this obsession with making more money. But guess what? When you only focus on that massive £1 million a year figure, you actually end up sabotaging yourself in so many ways as you're going along, because you can't hit your short-term hurdles. So for me, financial freedom is all about having super clarity on where you are now and what the next steps are to getting you to where you want to be, and being really clear on how much that awesome lifestyle is going to cost you so that you can start getting it sooner. And if all your focus is on the big money, you end up taking loads and loads of actions towards that huge number and none of the actions towards actually achieving true financial freedom now. And that's where it becomes fascinating, because it's like, well, actually, if you just did these other things instead, guess what? In 2 years' time, you would be financially free. You would cover all your bases, and you'd actually be able to have much more freedom. But people aren't taking those actions because they're only thinking of the big number. So it's for me, it's very much that focus on drilling down to what you actually need and then looking at that from the business's perspective and saying, right, how am I going to achieve this financial through my business? What actions do I need to be taking now in my business to get to that next step, to ensure my financial freedom, whilst also obviously not sabotaging all the other areas of my lifestyle mastery, the mindset and the time side of it as well. Because that's another problem people have with financial freedom. They focus so much on this part of the triangle that they forget about their time freedom. They forget about their emotion. They end up in a very stressed, time poor position, which is obviously the last thing we all want, because that takes us away from happiness. If we're stressed and time poor, busy all the time, all for the sake of money, money, money. So it's how do we make this happen within that bigger balance of everything else?
Yes, exactly.
You are so detailed, Dave. Yeah, Dom, I look in your face and you're like,
yes, he's already going into detail. Someone's already going up ahead.
No, I think it's absolutely amazing, Dave, listening to you break all that down, and you just have such an amazing strategic brain for how you think about it, but it comes in this amazing way from this like detailed perspective. It's one of the reasons that we've worked so well together, is because you kind of come from this strategic, almost like ground up perspective, whereas I'm more from the sky down, and we kind of like meet in the middle and it really works. And then Dom fills out this bit in the middle that we're really crap at, and it's really really amazing. And I think we've really seen, I think there is never enough money if you always just focus on the money, I think, is my main takeaway from what you're just saying there. There is always a nicer car, there is always a plane, there is always another plane, you know, there's always a helicopter to go along the plane, and a bigger house and a butler. Like, you know, there's no end of stuff that you can buy with more money. And if you're always waiting for happiness to be at the other end of the money, you never achieve financial freedom. So I think it's it's an amazing area, very important.
100% right there, Jackie. People think that there's a destination, that they'll be happy one day when they've got all these other things, and it's not that at all. It's being happy now on the journey, because life is a journey, as you said. People, as soon as you get somewhere, people want more. They want something else, something different. You know, your goals always change as soon as you've got to a certain place. I mean, for the viewers and listeners, think about when you started out in a job. You know, you had an idea of what you wanted to earn, and now you're probably earning twice that or more in a different job, possibly, or in a different career path. But you're never there. There is no destination. But anyway, all of this is good, but the fact is it would never have come together had it not been for you, Jackie. And actually, you know, you are absolutely the linchpin that created all this, as someone who is very creative. But one of the skills that I think you have better than almost anyone else I've ever met is that ability to see the strategic direction and the most important thing for people to do, and creating the right business model for them to focus on so that they can scale. So yeah, tell us a bit about your aspect of the triangle that we have.
Thanks, Dom. That's a lovely introduction. It made me actually think of what was that saying. I'm not bossy. I just know what you're meant to be doing. So anyway, yes, my part of the triangle, the third pillar is that time freedom, and obviously it's linked to the financial side. But I think we all imagine that we get loads of money, ultimately we get time. And it's just not true. Like, ultimately, if the time part of it is important to you, you've got to focus on the time part of it too. So our whole, when we first started investing in property, our whole thing was we wanted to be able to go on holiday. So ultimately, if you create a business that means that you have loads of money, but you are chained to your investment area, and you can't travel, and you're working 24/7, which has been us at various points, you haven't created the thing that you actually wanted. So for us, that time freedom is about making sure that you are creating a business that, as it grows, your amount of time that's required for it doesn't multiply, it actually decreases. We've done this the wrong way, and we've figured out how to do it the right way, and we've figured out how to help other people do it the right way. And for us, that clear focus in how you're, like, what property business you're actually building, and then making sure you are taking a really good systemized approach to how you're growing that, how you're bringing in the team, what you delegate and when. And obviously this links to the financial side too, but all of that is incredibly important to making sure that time freedom becomes a reality. And it is, of course, also very relevant to how you are managing your own time too, which links back to your area too, Dom, more around the emotional, the mindset part, making sure that you are not holding yourself back from doing the stuff that is really important in your property business. And so what I found is true progress happens at the intersection of order and chaos. If you are too ordered, you're going to have a beautiful filing system, you're going to have a lovely strategy, it's been really nice and organized and ready to go, nothing's getting messy, no papers in the wrong place. Great, but you ain't doing any deals or raising any finance, so kind of pointless. On the other side, complete chaos. You're hustling, you're more likely to be a hustler, doing loads of deals, making loads of stuff happen, but because there's completely no order at all, you really do suck yourself into creating another job, which the longer you go in that state of affairs, the harder it is to get out of it. So for me, that real time mastery is just keeping yourself on that border of order and chaos so that you can grow your property business whilst also making sure you can tidy up behind yourself as and when is required, be able to create the systems with as little time input from you as possible and pass it over to your team to be able to make sure that you can not only have a great business but also have a great life alongside it. I think very few people want to have just a great business, like people who are just like business is in their blood and they want to do it 24/7 because they love it. That's a very, very small percentage of people. So it's about creating that balance, which I think then links back in very nicely to where we started off with you, Dom.
And often people think they know what they want, but when they get there or get closer to it, their actions speak louder than their words. They say they want one thing, but their actions are saying the truth about what they truly do want. Because generally you do get what you want in life, but it's what you really want versus what you think you want. So there's anyway, that's probably for a deeper conversation another time. But that's a nice overview of the Property Lifestyle Mastery triangle. What can we expect next on this podcast?
Nice, thanks, Dom. Yeah, I was just going to say, so like those of you who are watching on YouTube, we will have put a visual out there to show the kind of broad framework that we're going to be using as a basis for the podcast. If you're listening in on a podcast, we'll probably try and find a way to like put a little hyperlink so you can have a look, just to have a visual reference of what we're talking about. So today we've really covered like the center fundamentals. So we've got property lifestyle mastery in the center, and then around that is the financial freedom, time freedom, and emotional freedom. Those are the fundamentals. And then beyond that, there are three wider triangles, which are more what we're calling the main pillars, which is business strategy, peak productivity, and mindset mastery. And those splinter again into different areas. So this, the plan for the podcast moving forward is to use the different ideas and concepts that come out of this model that's been built over the last 10 years of us building our property business. I think, Dom, you've got learnings that are coming into this from way before that as well. But just how do you bring these different elements together to mean that you can grow your property business, do more deals, raise finance, build a team, get the systems in place, make sure you're becoming your best version of yourself through all of that, and ultimately end up with true freedom at the end of it. So there'll be some episodes that are more structured. We're going to have interviews with each other. We'll probably bring interviews with other experts as and when it makes sense. Potentially some people who have also been learning from us about how to implement this because they're kind of fresher along the way. I think they'll bring a good perspective. And sometimes we'll just maybe have me and Dave on some episodes, or me and Dom. We'll kind of mix it up depending on whose expertise is going to be best. But really, this podcast is designed for people who are investing in property. It's going to be particularly helpful for you if you are already actively investing in property. So you've done some deals, maybe you've started working with investors and you're kind of like, oh my God, if I keep doing more deals, like where is my time going to go? Like I can't see how I'm going to scale this. Like that's who this is really going to benefit. But obviously, of course, if you're earlier on starting out, if we could have heard some of this stuff when we were just starting, we would have been, we're seeing it now as some of our clients, like people who are hearing this stuff from us day in, day out, they are like, light years ahead of where we were and having way more fun than we were because of it. So yeah, if you can hear it earlier on, the better. And obviously we're particularly focusing in on property as the vehicle to do all of this. Many of the concepts are transferable to other industries, but you'll get most value from most of this if you are investing in property, because that's where really our expertise, that having that niche expertise in property, because it is different to other businesses, is where we're gonna really be able to bring some value and some thoughts for you to ponder in your life. So that's the Jackie tirade on that. Anyone else want to add anything?
No, I think you summed it up very nicely, Jackie. I mean, it's the way it came about is from working together, and we can see the difference it's made to the current clients. Yeah, in terms of who, it's absolutely people who are already working in property. They've already got a reasonable, sort of 5, 6, 7 plus properties, and they just want to, they want to get out of the day-to-day and really scale up and free up their time, because that's why they got into it in the first place. They just haven't created that yet. So that's who we mainly help. And yeah, we bring so much more to it other than just business. There's community, friendship, spirituality, if you want to call it that, but that sort of connection to something greater as well, which I think everyone is more interested in these days. I think there's a real shift happening in the world. So I think that's a nice summary. We can leave it there.
Dave, I'm sure you like us. This is our first podcast, and it's so funny hearing us all come from different directions about how we're going to approach the podcast. I'm like, guys, let's just go with it and just see what happens. And Dave's like, no, we've got to have a structure, a plan. We've got a detailed checklist. So Dave, like the checklist that you'd written down for this podcast, have we covered everything you wanted to cover?
Yeah, just about. I was just going to say that I just think one of the biggest things we've learned in the last 10 years, which I think is the fundamental of this lifestyle mastery realization, was that when we started going to our vision of what we thought we wanted, and I think Dom, you were alluding to it earlier about like, you think you want something, but your actions speak louder. And like, actually what we realized was that what we thought we wanted was all these, house, money, time, whatever these things were, but we'd never actually gone to the next step of saying, where does that come from? Where does that come from? And I think this has been magical for us to get to that realization of starting to say, actually, the fundamental for every single person, us, everyone listening to this, there is simple fundamentals of we all want to be happy. We all want to feel satisfied. We all want to feel fulfilled. Like, lifestyle mastery is about mastering your own happiness and your own sense of fulfillment and satisfaction with what you're doing. It's just we choose to do that through property or whatever business we're doing. And I think where we've now gotten to is this understanding of how everything correlates and interrelates. It's all got to come back to that one fundamental: is it making you happy? Is the end result the thing you actually wanted? Not money, not time, it's happiness and fulfillment. And like, if we can achieve that, doesn't matter how we're doing it, that's the end goal. I think that's kind of again where this Dom talked about community and spiritual aspect of it. It's very much feeding in, that's feeding into this same sentiment. So yeah, I think it's all about, for me, structure to achieve happiness. How can you do that in a business setting with a property business?
Yeah. One last point that really stood out to me as you were saying that is that, people want to have more, but the more you have, the more you have to lose. And what I love about the life that you've created for yourself is that, as Jackie was saying to me yesterday, she's reached her goal of flip-flops and ski boots, the only 2 pairs of shoes she needs, because she's not shackled to things. You see, the people who have more possession, they need a much greater income the whole time to hold on to those possessions, and they feel distraught if they lose them. Whereas actually, if you have less and you're happy every day, then you're completely free, which is actually what you've discovered you want and are living that now, which is amazing.
Beautifully said, Dom. Well, I don't know what you were expecting, guys, from listening into this podcast, but you can see there's going to be a lot of the more technical aspects. Obviously, from a business strategy perspective, we are going to talk about doing deals, raising finance, how that links to your system and your team, and building that cash flow. Like, that's all there, but we are essentially going to splinter this out into like what's really underneath it all. And these are the conversations that Dom, Dave and I are having whenever we meet. And so I'm really excited to kind of open these conversations up. You'll either be listening to this going, oh my God, these guys are absolutely crazy, and it's probably the last one you listen to. So that's great. Maybe things will change and where we are. But I think those of you that this is right for, and you're kind of ready to question how you're doing things, you're open-minded to question your beliefs, to make life more fun and free, and to let it flow, and as a result build an amazing business that you're really proud of. That's what we're going to be here for. So here's the first one. I hope this has gotten off to a great start and got you thinking in some different areas, and you can expect to hear from us. We're going to plan to, I think we'll release one of these every week, guys. That's our commitment, right, moving forward. So one of these every week, covering different areas, and so we look forward to going on this journey with you over the weeks and months ahead.
Thank you so much for joining us for this first ever episode of Property Lifestyle Mastery. I hope you've enjoyed it and are excited to come along with us for the journey and see where this all leads. If you want to find out more and connect with us, head on over to our website, which is www.property-strategy.com. All of our social media links are on there, and you can also connect with us, send us a message through there. Questions, comments, feedback. Hopefully not hate mail, but if you wish. So we'd love to hear from you. If you've enjoyed this episode, please do remember to subscribe so you'll get notified when future episodes get released each week. And on next week's episode, you will be hearing more from me. I'm going to be bearing my soul, talking about some of the challenges that have come up for me on the route to getting the business to where it is today, and the lessons that have come out from all of that. So if you want to hear more from me bearing my soul, then make sure you check out the next episode on the show. And we look forward to heading on through this Property Lifestyle Mastery podcast journey with you. See you there.